Meet me. Alright, welcome back, boys, to another set of hero previews with Dr. Squirrel. I have not seen either of these, but I know I'm already scared because I know recent history. And we're going to start off with Peira, Peira, I don't know. But let's see what Smilegate has in store for us today. She is an ice thief. You guys can watch that stuff on your own. I never watched the animations to save us time. Alright, Ice Thief. Yep. Here we go again. 128 base speed. So another fast as F hero. One of the fastest heroes in the game now. Only K-Ron and Ran are faster, I believe. Alright, let's see what we got here. Skill 2 first. Punishing Blade. Attacks all enemies with Guardian Spirits, decreasing buff duration by another stripper, before restricting and making them unable to be buffed for 2 turns, grants an extra turn to the caster. So, oh my god. Smilegate is so transparent nowadays. So, right off the bat, what does this look like, guys? What was the last hero that came out that I complained about? ML Lilias. So they're sticking with their formula of creating a problem and selling the solution. So here it is, 128 base speed. What do ML Lilias pickers usually pre-ban? Well, I mean, it's pretty much everyone now. They pre-ban Ran, because Ran can kind of deal with ML Lilias. And now you have yet another unit, because I guess the idea is Peira goes first, puts up unable to be buffed, and an ML Lilias can't get up Vigor. So they created this monster, and now they created an answer to it instead of just fixing ML Lilias. So grants an extra turn. I guess we'll watch this together, just the animation. Wait, what? Oh, it is an attack. So the S2 is an attack that does it. I thought it was a non-attack skill. Okay, I should have read it more carefully. So she attacks, and then she gets an extra turn. What does she do with the extra turn? Using the power of the Goblet of Oath, that sounds stupid. Increase attack of all allies, except for the caster for 2 turns before granting stealth, escort, and a barrier to the caster for 3 turns. Barrier strength increase is proportional to the caster's level? Is that new? Have we ever had something that scales according to level in the past? So I guess gear doesn't matter. It doesn't scale on HP or speed or attack or anything like that. Just level. So as long as you're level 60, it's always the same, I guess. Escort. The target takes 30% of the damage. What the hell? So it's an AoE proof. Which means she'll die really fast. Basically, she's giving, like... You know how fast Troublemaker dies? This is for the whole team, basically. Granted, it's 30 instead of 40, but still. Well, this looks horrifying. So now we have... a super fast AoE stripper with unable to be buffed and restrict that also gives the entire team attack buff and insane damage mitigation. Yeah. Well, that sounds good. Alright, let's see this. Let's watch the animation. And there's that attack buff for everyone. Jesus Christ. Okay, skill 1. Slashes the enemy with sharp claws with a 30... they show this with max molas, right? So 30% at max molas, I think. And then if she has a barrier, which she self-barriers, it's 55%. So better than 50-50 shot stunning, which is pretty crazy. Okay, alright, well, let's look at the artifact first. Goblet of Oath, that's a stupid thing they mentioned before. Effectiveness increases by 30% after using a non-attack skill, decreases skill cooldown by 1 turn, can only be activated 3 times per battle. They put this in because it sounds broken. So it's basically a thief, what's that mage artifact called? Spirit's Breath. I don't use that many thieves. I imagine this is probably usable on like Ran and stuff like that. There's probably some hero I'm missing that you guys are going to remind me of where this is really good on. Obviously this works for her as well. Looks pretty strong. Okay, so the artifact looks good, but I don't really care too much about that. Let's talk about this hero. Number 1 seems like Smallgate is trying to fix the ML Lilias problem, but I don't like this as a solution at all. So now we have another super fast stripper slash unable to be buffer that gives the entire team attack buff. And hell, maybe some people will even build this as just damage mitigation. Just give her all HP subs and let her just soak up damage for the team and use her as like a weird knight, maybe? A knight that gives your whole team attack buff? Depending, I mean, her base HP, I don't know. It might be interesting to try, though. I mean, a knight that has damage mitigation and gives the entire team attack buff. I guess Rose could do that as well, but she kind of stinks. I don't know. That's just like a secondary idea. I don't know if that would actually work, but as a cleave unit, I mean, it seems super strong. I guarantee you cleavers are going to build this and use it. Like right now, banning Ran hurts cleave a lot. I mean, they could still work around it because there's a lot of other initiating options. So pre-banning Ran by no means completely stops cleave, but it kind of dents them a little bit. Now with Peira out there, it's almost irrelevant because they're always going to get one or the other through. And they're pretty similar, really, except that she doesn't defense break, right? She's also kind of immune to Politis. Like Rand's immune to Politis because Politis can't strip the immunity in attack. And in this case, if you land the restrict, she can't actually push up and do her blind and stuff to annoy you. So you're still going to be able to get all of this stuff off. And, 50% push up your whole team if they have other stuff like Ida and whatever. So this is an indirect buff to Ida. It's just a really, really strong addition to Cleave. I hate it. I hate it. Ugh. Well, I don't Cleave either. I'm sure Cleavers are jumping up in joy. They have yet another crazy tool. I don't even have Ran built, so I don't want more Rans to exist. That's basically what this is. It's like a weird hybrid of Ran and Cerise. And yeah, power creep continues. It looks like a ridiculously strong hero. I probably won't even use it because I don't cleave much, but I think it's pretty plainly obvious that from a cleave perspective, this looks extremely strong right now. So that's my thoughts on this one. Let's move on to ML Cermia. Alright, now that we saw how insane Peira is, let's see if Lionheart Cermia is just as ridiculous. So, again, we'll skip all this. Where are the stats? Warrior, effect resistance built in, okay speed, but definitely not a crazy fast unit by any means. Probably middle of the road speed. Pretty high defense, pretty high effect resistance. Attack seems a little low. Actually, is that high or low? I don't even know. Skill 2. It's far from over. It gains 40 fighting spirit at the start of the first battle. So it just starts at 40 fighting spirit. After an ally suffers an extra attack, counterattack, or dual attack, dispels all debuffs on herself and activates Shine. Can only be activated every 3 turns. Emits light, increasing defense and effect resistance of the caster for 2 turns and gains 50 fighting spirit. Okay, so she punishes counters. Let's see this shine animation, wherever it is. So it's a Cermia S2 animation. Skill 3, I am the victor. Attacks all enemies with a sword storm before granting an extra turn to the caster. Penetrates target's defense by 50%. Damage dealt increases. I love skills that scale proportionate to defense because I have all this defense percentage gear that I never use. The animation looks awesome. What was here? She has about 12,000 HP, hit the entire enemy team for about 12k. With attack buff and defense buff, and they have no mitigation. So the damage isn't that crazy. Scales proportional defense. You have defense buff up plus attack buff. Like outside of defense break, that's about as good of a situation as you're going to get. And no mitigation. That's not bad. It's a good S1. Attacks with just a basic S1 increases speed. Damage dealt increases proportional defense. Okay, so what do I think of this hero? I mean, how much fighting spirit does she get? 20 for the S1. This consumes 80. So the problem is she can't actually use that S3 very often, right? So she can open with it pretty fast. So you start with 40. They counter once or dual attack once, and then you can use the S3. But it's a 3-turn cooldown, so you can't spam the S3 or anything. Like Charlotte or something can theoretically like spam her S3 if she just like keeps getting fighting spirit. Unless I'm missing something here. Maybe if you run her with like a lot of guaranteed dual attacks to get her to keep spamming the S1, you can, and the Soulburn's actually on the S1, you can use that S3 more. I mean, an AoE 50% death pen is pretty solid, and honestly, like I kind of made fun of her damage, but this really isn't that bad considering that there's like no defense breaks or anything. Like it's not a cleave unit, but for a defense scaling unit, that means she's going to be very tanky, right? So this damage is respectable for such a tanky unit. Like think of Fighter Maya. Like on paper, damage doesn't look that good, but when you consider how tanky she is, she's not bad. So I don't know. I don't think this hero. I need to play with it. It's hard. Like it's nothing like Peira. Like Peira is obviously going to be super meta in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's going to be super meta. I expect it to pop up all over the place as soon as she's released. This one, this hero is more my style actually because I don't cleave, so I'm going to try to experiment with this, but I don't, I don't, I don't know if it'll work. Like if this didn't have a cooldown, I actually think she'd be pretty broken. Like, because then you just keep procking this, right? You keep procking the shine and getting 50 fighting spirit, and it turns into this juggernaut where you can just be spamming this S3 every single turn. I actually think she would be pretty busted if this thing didn't have such a long cooldown, but she does. It does have a long cooldown, so realistically, you eat one of these, and then you don't have to really care for a couple of turns. You have some breathing room, so and it doesn't like push her or anything, so it's not even like an anti-cleave ability. Actually, maybe it's not so bad. It might still, because I totally didn't pay attention to this. It grants her an extra turn, so even though this thing is a 3-turn cooldown, it's really like a 1-turn cooldown, I guess, because she gets an extra turn, right? You know what? I think this isn't bad. Like into like a Belian, this might be pretty good against like Belian and stuff, although it's an AoE attack, so you also risk having her hit you back too. I don't know. This is going to be a kind of hero I have to think about and actually experiment with, but I totally missed this on the first one that she gets an extra turn. So now the 3-turn cooldown on Shine is making a lot more sense to me. Because if it actually was 3 turns and she didn't have an extra turn mechanic, I feel like that's way too long to get value out of this. But with the extra turn, I think this actually might be viable if you can build her tanky enough and this thing does enough damage. And I don't actually know how hard this thing hits, but it has a soul burn that's only 10 souls. Like maybe the idea, like if you can S3 and just bonk people with a soul burn S1, she might be really, really good, right? Like sometimes it's easy to underestimate S1 damage. Like, well, let's watch it. 5,800. Did she soul burn that? I missed it. It's no soul burn there. I mean, that's not terrible, right? And I don't think she had attack buff here. She doesn't have attack buff here. I mean, she's defense scaling anyway, but... So I don't know. I don't know about this one. So I definitely think Peira is better, but I feel like a lot of people are going to say this hero sucks. I don't know if I'm there yet. I think for my style, it might actually work. The real problem is you can't draft it into anything that doesn't have extra attacks or counter attacks, right? So you're really going to have to wait until they pick something like that, like a Violet or a Beline or a Rem. But realistically, those kind of heroes show up literally every single match. So it shouldn't be that hard to draft her. So yeah, so we'll cut it out there. But ultimately, my conclusion is Peira is more power creep nonsense, is going to be all over the place, especially in the upper echelons of RTA. I'm 99% sure of it. Lionheart Cermia seems okay. Who knows? She might be busted. Like, I don't think she sucks by any means. Where we're gonna have to look at her multiplier, see how tanky she could be and stuff. She kind of reminds me of like Fighter Maya. Like a lot of people slept on Fighter Maya too, but she was actually really good back in the day. Like no one would ever argue that she was busted, but even at the top, people were able to use her, and this is kind of like a Fighter Maya ish situation to me. But definitely doesn't seem busted. And I guess the real question is if you can only get Rylot or Lionheart Cermia, which one do you take? I think that's a tough one. I mean, because with new heroes, sometimes it's not like, remember, people thought Closet Charles kind of sucked. And turns out everyone was wrong, or a lot of people were wrong. So a lot of people could be wrong about this. But I think I personally would probably take Rylot because I kind of play more aggro, and generally I'm not that scared of counterattack teams like Belian. I find easy to deal with. People don't pick Rem that much anymore. Violet's the only one I really still hate. So I don't think I really struggle with counter teams all that much, but I'll definitely try it out. So, anyways, if I missed anything, like I did when I forgot this extra attack thing, leave it in the comment section below. Let me know your own thoughts. And until next time, peace out, boys.